Okay, so let's just kind of go over this again. I know if you've watched the videos before, if you've been in class, you've heard this already, but I'm going to make sure to repeat myself. The main thing is that the test is tomorrow, Friday, December 4th. It's going to be open from 8 to 5. If you need an accommodation, like you work till 5:30 or 6 or something, and you need to take it later in the day because you can't get it done during the day, just please let me know so I can make that accommodation in Blackboard. The test will have roughly 40 questions. I think it actually has 39 questions. So it'll have 39 questions. It's set up just like the test you've taken before in this class. Once you start, you can't stop. Once you start, you have to finish, I should say. And you have 2 hours to complete it. It does replace your lowest test grade. So if your lowest test grade is lower than the final, it will replace it. If not, it just won't replace it. It'll count only as your final grade. Also, before we get started, I want you to know, because I've been helping students advise over the last few weeks, you need to get in touch with your advisor as soon as possible. Some of these classes are starting to fill up. Mainly the online classes are starting to fill up pretty quick. So if you're wanting the classes for next semester, if you kind of, if you take too long to get to your advisor, you won't probably get the classes that you want scheduled. You're going to get classes that are left over. So get with them as soon as you can so you can get advice for next semester, and that'll be over and you won't have to worry about it until you get back in the spring semester. So let me make sure. I think that's it. Okay, so that's kind of the overview I wanted to hit today. Of course, the main thing is that the test is tomorrow. Do not email me over the weekend saying you missed it because you did not get the memo. I've been talking about this for a month now. Now, I'm going to go over first a really basic overview of, I say basic, it's just going to tell you all about the topics. I already did this for another class, so I'm going to be kind of lazy with it. And then after that, I say lazy with it, it's already printed out here. Like I already made the notes for it. After that, I am open to any and all questions that you have, okay? So any and all questions I'll answer. The rest of, after I go over just all the topics, the rest of the review is really based off your questions, okay? If you don't have any questions, I just assume that you know what's going on, or you need to just go back and look at some stuff and you'll know what's going on and you'll be ready to go. So let's start with just kind of the topic. So this is not in any particular order. I was just going through the final with the other class, and as things popped up, I put them into little sections. When I think I kind of separated it in 6 sections. You got the matrix, functions, quadratics, finding zeros, rational functions, and exponential logs. I'll get to those other 3 after this page. But first, let's talk about the matrix. This is what we went over most recently. And if you got that homework done, you'll know that it's not the hardest of sections. You've got to be able to find the inverse, got to be able to multiply, know the order and the position, how to find that, and then understand equality and addition and subtraction. Very straightforward. That was not the hardest of sections, and it's the most recent. So typically students do pretty well on it because it is the most recent of the sections on the test. And then we get to functions, which really is the biggest, you might want to say like biggest bucket of topics. And really everything in this after this could be in a function bucket. It's just that I kind of put certain ideas or topics from functions together. So first off, you've got to know, just looking at a graph, is it a function or not? Remember, based off that vertical line test. And then same thing, if it's an equation, is it a function or not? You have to remember how to do that. That's of course in your notes and on previous tests. Got to be able to find the domain given a graph or given an equation. Remember where the x's exist. And then got to know how to determine increasing, decreasing, and constant on a graph and notate it, right? I mean, it wasn't just saying, oh yeah, there it is. You've also got to know how to notate it correctly in the interval notation. Same with domain in the interval notation. Then we had finding y equals mx plus b. So finding the equation for a straight line, a linear function, and then finding inverses, compositions, and transformations. Those three, which seem like oh yeah, I forgot to write about those. These three are three of the more difficult topics, I think, in this semester. But finding an inverse, finding a composition, right? F composed of G or G composed of F. And then the transformation. So remember, this was like taking the function and moving it vertically a few units and maybe to the right 2 units, or and then flipping it around the X or Y axis. That was that transformation section. Okay. Now, quadratics, your book really focused a lot on quadratics, and it focused a lot on quadratics in the transformation section. So, but your book did put an entire section really just based on quadratics, 2 sections actually. It was the very first thing we talked about this semester in section 1.5. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember that section number. But section 1.5 went over how to solve quadratics. And that's going to be on the test, where you're just given a quadratic and you're asked to solve for it. How to graph them, using, you could use your calculator, you could use y-intercepts, x-intercepts, and then lastly, finding the vertex. There were a few different ways to find the vertex. Okay. Okay. So if you've got a question about that, hold tight, or you can put it in the chat and I'll get to it here in a minute. But hold tight, and then I'm going to go over the last 3 kind of topics, areas, and then I'll answer any questions that you've got over this. Okay. So the last 3 topics were finding zeros. First, really, I'm going to go to this bottom one, giving all possible rational zeros, or give all possible rational zeros. Remember, this is when we used the constant and the leading coefficient to determine all possible rational zeros. And then in the finding zero section, we went over synthetic division and then just how to find all of them. We really utilized the calculator a lot for this, but it was, using the calculator to find a zero, dividing out the zero, and then finding the other 2 or 3 or 4 solutions. Excuse me. And then we had rational functions. These were just fractional functions, right? The first thing we talked, I think this was section 2.6. The first thing in that section was finding the domain of those. A lot like in the function section, when I actually find the domain, this is when x winds up being in the denominator. And then we've got finding horizontal and vertical asymptotes. So given a rational function, find a horizontal and vertical asymptote. And then lastly, graphing it. So once you do all those things, graphing the rational function. And then the last kind of topic that we're talking about today is the exponential and logs. This was chapter 4. Compound interest question, right? Very basic. Either compounding continuously or compounding non-continuously. Either way, I give you the equation. It's just that you've got to put in the parts that give you the answer. And then we've got simplifying logs, which is really 4, 2, and 3, solving logarithms, which is 4, 4, and then writing them in both forms. So going back and forth between logarithmic notation and exponential notation. Okay. So these are all the topics on the test. So it winds up being about 40 questions. The questions don't really repeat themselves, but sometimes they kind of come across that way. Like writing in both forms, I could go one or the other, right? Or both even. Okay. Okay. So I'm putting it out there for you now. Do you have any questions about the final? Or do you have any questions about the structure or anything like that? I'll give you a minute. You can write it in chat. You can raise your hand. Or you can just start blurting it out. You will not offend me or the other people in this class. How does it affect our grade if we do? Terribly. Well, let's say you bomb this test and it's going to count like a regular test grade. So I believe there's so there's 6 overall tests. There's 5 regular tests in the final. So it's really a 1/6 of your grade. So it's about, what is a 1/6 percentage wise? About 16% of your grade. So, I mean, it depends on how bad it is, but it does count for a 1/6 of your grade. Hopefully that helps answer that question, Celeste or CJ. I'll tell you the best way, period, hands down, to study for this thing is by looking at your 5 tests. That is the best way to do it. We missed a test. Yes, Zoe, if you missed a test, the final, so that will count as your lowest test grade. So let's say you missed test 3, your final replaces test 3. So because it would be a 0, there's no way, well, I say there's no way you'll make less than a 0, but there's no, like even if you get 1 question right, it will replace that test that you missed. Yeah, no problem. It'll just count as your lowest test grade. Yeah. And that's why originally I implemented that policy, because I had, if you got sick, or if students got sick, or if they had issues, they wouldn't, like, if I did makeup tests, it made it where students had to, this semester's just been totally different, but it made it where students would have to like go back and focus on old information, and they wouldn't focus on the current information. So I needed them to really focus on what I was going over at the time and not go back. It's a little easier with making the videos, I think. But yeah, that was the reason for the policy, was that really, if you had to miss because of whatever reason, sickness, kid stuff, whatever, the final would just replace it. You wouldn't have to worry about that. And then if you took all the tests, of course, it would just replace your lowest test grade. Good questions. And okay, here's what I'm going to do. If you're not going to ask a lot of questions, because I'm not bummed that you're not asking questions, but the other class asked some really good questions. Hold on, let me put this on me. The other class asked some really good questions from yesterday. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post that. I mean, I can post this one too. It's not a big deal, but I'm going to post that that lecture that they had. I'm going to post it in your Blackboard shell, because you can see they brought up some really good questions about previous topics that you might not even think about. Okay. So I'll do that for you. Hold on. I'm going to do that right now so I don't forget. So you will see 2 final exam, you'll see 2 final exam kind of lectures, or final exam study guide lectures, or I forgot exactly what I called it. But so I would watch that other one. I mean, it's like 45 minutes, but at least, I mean, you can skip the first part. It's the exact same we did today, just with the topics, and then go to their questions. They asked some really good questions. Let me get in there. Hold on. Yeah. Final exam review. I'll put final exam review from Wednesday. Yeah, that way it'll just separate the 2 lectures. So you'll see yours, and then you'll see theirs. Okay. If there's no questions, first off, I want to thank you guys for sticking with me. This has been a very challenging semester for all of us on both sides. And I think you guys have done well. I know that I've learned a lot of stuff. Yeah, hold on, CJ. I've learned a lot of stuff about a lot of information on how to teach online from this class. I'll probably utilize a lot of mistakes actually, and that I learned through this semester. And I just want to thank you guys for being patient with me and really asking, really putting in good work. I would say it like that, putting in really a lot of good work. And it's shown overall, even through this pandemic, my overall pass rate so far, coming to this point is about the same, which is amazing. And I know, I mean, the tests are a little easier. If you guys were in regular class, the tests would be seated, they'd be pen and paper, which makes them a little more difficult, but also I do partial credit. So there's kind of some give and take there. So even if you show me some, show me you're in the right direction, I can give you some credit, where this multiple choice I can't, but that's just kind of how it has to work with the Blackboard and with the consistency issue that has plagued the pandemic. So plagued the pandemic. Nice. Anyway, but I just want to thank you guys. I hope you guys have a great Christmas break. Hold on, let me get to this question. Could you categorize which parts of the study guide were included in which tests? Which parts of the study guide? Oh, I don't even know that. So CJ, I would go through, because I can't remember off the top of my head what exactly it was. And so I would say no. I mean, I know the matrix wasn't even on it. I'll tell you that. So if I was going to go in a brief overview, let's go backwards. Test 5 was over logarithms and exponentials. Test 4 was over rational functions. Test 3 was over finding the zeros. Test 2 was really over, it was really test 1 and 2 were kind of together in a way. Test 2 was over the quadratic function. It was over, maybe that might have been test 3. No, that's test 2. Test 2 was over the quadratic function. It was over transformations. It was over inverses. It was over, I'm looking at it now. I can't believe I can do this. I didn't think I could. Creating a linear equation. The increasing, decreasing constant, that was test 2. And then test 1 was over quadratics. Ooh, increasing, decreasing constant might have been test 1. Yeah, test 1 was over quadratics, defining what a function is or is not. And that increasing, decreasing constant, that was in test 1. Okay, is there a way to see what questions we missed on test? Yeah, when you click on it, you can see when you click on the test, I can't really show you, but like if you go into, I'm going to kind of talk it through with you to tell you. If you click on a test, or if you go to gradebook, I'm sorry. If you go to gradebook, and then when you click on your attempt, actually, I'll show you. Let me share this screen real fast. Hold on. Haven't shared a screen in a while. Oh, you see it? Okay, I'm going to do it real fast just to kind of show everybody here. Okay. Yeah, if you want to see exactly what you missed, if you go to gradebook here, and then you'll see, like on this one, I only took test 1 in the final. I'm not going to click on the final. But if I click on test 1, I made a 0, but when you click on that grade, it'll show you exactly what you missed, and it'll show you the right answer too. Okay. So that's a good question, CJ. Yeah. So if you want to go back and look and see what you got right or wrong, that's how you do it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I put the other final exam review in your lecture. Any other questions? Okay, I'll stick around. I mean, you've got me until 11 or till 10, 20, 30, whenever the class ends. So I'll stick around. You guys are free to leave. I'm going to stop